Hello, everyone, and good afternoon and good evening. We are back. We are back to our crystal talk conversations with Alexander Mei. Alexander Mei has more than, I would say, 25 years of experience, right, in the field of healing.
My name is Alexander Mei, and I am a professional healer, psychic medium, as well as an exorcist. And I have been a professional in my field for over 25 years. And yeah, it's great to be here.
I'm very happy you could join us. You're joining live from, I see, a hotel room. So apparently, not each and every person is moving around right now, but a lot of people that I talked to recently, they either moved in or moved out of certain areas and certain houses due to toxic environment that they found themselves in. And if we may introduce, let's say, the subject to our audience today, we will talk about and shed light into a very intricate and difficult topic, Lilith. Imagine the deep ocean, and then there is a boat floating right on the surface. What we see is the shadow of this boat, but it's distorted. This is basically how Lilith works.
Mm,
It's just the shadow. We don't see the object itself. We just see the
mm.
shadow. And the next trend, and it started at the end of March 2025, and it will continue until the end of this year, is that a lot of people will be caught in this energy of Lilith and Scorpio and just, entangled in the shadow and not knowing what to do with themselves. So, Alexander, you
Mm,
are always a pioneer when it comes to energetical trends.
mhm.
What's been happening in your life and the life of your clients? I'm sure that you have noticed this trend, and I'm sure that you can tell us, as always, very interesting stories, as you always do.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for asking. I would say the topic of sexuality and finances have been coming up. There's a lot of people that have been learning how to have more fun with money and also have more fun with their sexuality, but there's also a lot of people where it has become very destructive for them as well because they haven't quite learned yet how to play with both of those, essentially.
This sounds somewhat intriguing
Mm,
because a lot of times people mix up these money and sexuality. For some reason, if we look astrologically at certain generations, for example, people born in the 70s, especially 74, 75, 1966, 1950, you name it, 1995, 1998. Like there are certain times when people grow up in environments where the definition of love is distorted and the kids don't
mm,
really get that they deserve and that they need, and instead they get paid, or they get little presents, or they get little whatever, here, take, these new pair of shoes, and that's it. So we have cold parents and some physical objects that serve as replacement for this love. And I think a lot of these, issues, I absolutely agree with you. They will be resurfacing and maybe redirecting a lot of people, especially the ones who haven't been working on themselves,
mm,
into a complete chaos.
hmm. Can you explain what that means when you say they haven't been working on themselves?
Oh, well. Wait, the last around 20 years in a very materialistic society
Mm,
where visiting a therapist was a prerogative of, let's say, a rather wealthier social class.
mm,
And the rest of folks just, went to Walmart, went to Target, bought a car, paid their mortgage, So we have a lot of people with emotions piled up in their body that were not addressed, and they were never addressed. I especially find it very relevant for Germany and the United States. There is a certain connection between these two countries. So yes, Lilith and Scorpio will steer the shit up. So what's been happening with you and your clients?
What it feels like. So, for me personally, whenever I think about Scorpio, I always think about the Mariana Trench, right? So, it's like the deepest, darkest part where all of these animals can survive that are blind in boiling hot temperatures, right? And so, for me, what that represents is it also represents all of the repressed things that people haven't worked on. So, all of the things that they have suppressed and repressed from their childhood. And what I'm noticing is a lot of people who are stuck mentally, for example, they'll be stuck mentally when they were like 5 or 6 years old when it comes to certain situations, but to other situations, they will not be. Like maybe in business, they're really amazing. But then when it comes to handling things emotionally with other people, it's like dealing with a 6 year old. Does that make sense?
We will see a lot of 6 years olds in business suits. Is that what you mean?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, yeah.
I see. Well, let me share some stories with you. I mean, the past couple of days were really crazy. As an astrologer, I see a lot of charts and I talk to people, and basically, after spending an hour and a half, either with my psychotherapy clients or with my astrology clients, I can just sit down and write a book, like Anton Chekhov or Kafka or even Hemingway, any kind of book, any kind of short story about their life. And what's been coming up lately, the last couple of days, were actually people whose life went sideways, whose life was redirected and went in a wrong direction, kind of steered off the track, went off the track. And when we were tracking this in each and every story, it happened back in 2016. So I looked up what was happening astrologically back in 2016, and guess what?
Mm,
Black moon was in the sign of Scorpio. It
mm,
was somewhere from May of 2016 all the way through February 2017 there. And I love this comparison that you just made, the deep sea, something that you don't really see what's happening there. Everything is coming up right now onto the surface. And if we talk about, let's say, certain manipulation or influence, if people were subjected to this manipulation or influence, this is coming up right now. So the secrets are being revealed, and obviously,
mm,
the individuals who were manifesting it, doing it, will probably get it sent back.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
How was your 2016?
2016 was when I really had been working really hard to build up my client base in LA. And that was the year that I started socializing with people. That was the year that I started talking to people and starting to open myself up socially. So it's really interesting that you brought that up. And I remember at that time, I was very, very open vocally with people saying things like, you should do energy work and you should clear out your unelevated ancestors, and was very, very like vocal about that with people and about teaching people things and giving people things and being very, very generous with information.
Well, it's probably touching like a third or ninth house in your chart. I'm sure there's some connection. I'm sure, after this interview, if we look up your natal chart, Transits probably has something to do with that. I found out that, and you actually helped me to make it clear and to bring it to my attention that there is a tendency right now in the society of not valuing the work, or let's say devaluing very valuable contribution to certain
Hmm.
situations and places and people. Looking back at what was happening during COVID and during the uncertain situation, in Europe, Russia, Ukraine, whatever, people were under stress, a lot of businesses closed. Um, and so, just remembering the discussion that we had about 4 years ago, where we said that the pie is getting smaller, and so you're going to have way more vultures or like parasites, trying to get a bite of your pie.
Hmm.
This definitely is happening. However, the most successful um, thieves are the ones who wear socially acceptable masks. People who to be very likable, very understanding. They completely possess the vocabulary of, highbrow individual and emotionally intelligent individual, etc., etc. So we have a lot of these right now, and they're the
Hmm.
ones who have stolen all of the pies all around.
I would say that what I recently witnessed was me closing down the vacuum and not allowing people to siphon off my energy when I don't have any energy. So when I tell someone and I say, I don't have the capacity currently, that means no. So when someone continues to push after I say no, well, then I really need to take a look and ask the question of, is it really a contribution to have this person or this group of people in my life? Or uh, do I need to take a step back?
Yesterday I talked to one of my girlfriends. She is in Spain right now, and she's been let down by one of her best friends. They were friends for like 10 years or maybe even more. And there was some kind of argument or a misunderstanding because of the man that happened to be some real estate owner of the hotels, and one hotel or several hotels in Spain, whatever. And basically, this dear friend of hers that I remember I have met several times in New York and Virginia, basically kicked her to the curb and left her outside on the street. So, I was trying to find a place to, stay in certain areas of Spain, and maybe she will come down to visit me. But how can we explain this behavior of people who were considered to be friends? Like, because I see this trend, and I see
Mm.
how this disillusionment is hurting the ones who went through this disillusionment. They're just heartbroken. So the question number one is, why is this happening right now? Like, astrologically, we see Lilith in Scorpio. And the second question is there any advice you can give to people, or maybe some encouragement to people
Mhm.
who have been going through this rather traumatic experience of breaking up with the maybe parental objects or objects of affection?
A lot of this is happening because of the things that happened to us in 2016. And so, if we chose to validate those things and acknowledge them, then we will work through it. But if we continue to push back and not take heed of what got us there in the first place, or what is continuously putting us in those situations, then that's what's it's just going to continue to happen. My advice I have a lot of advice. um, my advice is don't allow people into your life who do not take accountability for anything. If you have people around you, it doesn't matter if you've known them for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, if they are not willing to take accountability for the choices that they've made in their lives, if they are not willing to take accountability for how their actions affect other people around them, you need to be very mindful of that because where we're moving into is into a different mindset and a different type of society as human beings now. And if we want to exist in an elegant way, in a way of sophistication, and in a way where we all can have each other's back as a community, we have to understand that every single thing that we do has an action and a reaction, right? So if I am coming into this Zoom call, for example, and I'm not regarding Mary, I'm not respecting Mary, I'm not, giving the gratitude that she should be receiving and it's not being given back to me, what are we doing?
We will structure it. One advice from your side, one advice or observation from my side.
Yeah.
Accountability. This was beautiful. Like
Mm,
that right now is absolutely beautiful. And it brings me to an awareness that I'm just having now as I listen to you. Number two, look at the rotation.
mm,
What speed the person you are trying to make your friend, with what speed he or she changes friends or people in his or
mm,
her life.
mm-hmm.
Because if this is a rotating door, then it's a red flag.
Mm-hmm. I have to ask the question, so what is the consistency of this person? Is this person consistent in many different areas? Is there a lot of inconsistencies in the areas that this person is perhaps projecting towards others as well? So it's there's a lot of people in the world who have also learned how to trick other people into thinking that they are being the authentic version of themselves.
Very,
And
very deep. My God. Yeah.
and so the trickery is only that you can only trick people into doing what you want for so long, especially if you do not include them. And there are certain individuals that they are just it's hard to explain. It's like, would you call those people narcissists or would you call them narcissistic psychopaths? Like, what's the correct term you would say?
Well, this is an excellent question.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at it from, let's say, the point of psychoanalysis, I would probably mention two types,
Mm,
uh, two different ways of the psyche, the way it's built. First, these are hysterical people who are usually full, prey of narcissists. um, they have tendency of clinging on to someone genuinely, um, and then devaluing them. But
mm,
we compare this pattern to the truly narcissistic behavior on the
mm,
level of psychopathy, like
mm,
when it's a narcissistic psychopath, then
mm,
we usually witness three cycles.
mm,
Number one, oh, you see it right away, is when a person is looking at you, wow, in Eve. Wow, Alexander, you're amazing. You're an amazing healer. Oh my God, you're such a professional. This admiration, this Eve in their eyes, like complete enchantment, does captivate you in a way where you think, wow, I'm really great. there's this narcissistic vibe that is somewhat contagious and you almost, fall into it. The second part of this story is when this narcissistic psychopath just starts using you, starts giving you calls, in the middle of the night saying, Alexander, please help me. I'm in this, situation, or can you wire transfer me dollars, or can you come and rescue me? And the third phase is when they completely devalue you. They find a way to hurt you very deeply by just brushing you off, or, by making you overextend yourself in a way where you go an extra mile and buy things and do things only for them to ignore it or say it was not so good to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
These are the three aspects through which you can recognize the true narcissistic psychopath. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds accurate.
You talked about accountability. We talked about consistency, right? So
Mhm.
look at your friends circle. Are they consistent, or are they changing every month? You mentioned this trickery, which brought us to the topic of narcissistic behavior and hysterical behavior, which is in German literature called histrionic behavior, because they're trying not to offend people, um, who have hysterical tendencies. But let's just explore a little bit the other side. Who do you think, or with what trauma, gets attracted to such um, characters?
I would say empaths, healers, light workers, anyone who has hypersensitivity. I would also say, I would dare say, I would dare say that a lot of neurodivergent people, and there are a lot of neurodivergent people that are borderlining on the part of,
Mhm.
hmm, how do I explain it? I will be very vulnerable with our audience and say that at one point in my life, I had a lot of people who were telling me that I was a narcissist, actually, and were
Oh, I
projecting
remember
it.
it was a very popular term, people
Yeah.
with no degree in psychology were throwing the terms around like
Mhm.
like nothing.
What do we call it? Pop psychology, right? TikTok.
I would say TikTok or pop psychology,
TikTok.
Instagram psychology. Uh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, TikTok psychology, and then, but then as I started to research and I started to know myself more, and I started to see a psychotherapist, and I started to like work on myself, not just in a metaphysical way, but in a psychological way, and merging those two things together, I realized that there are there are neurodivergent people who get locked into their ego, and it is very easy to get locked into the ego because you have all of these hypersensitivities, right? But you don't know how to ground yourself. And then there's also the aspect of your wounding that happens to you with your parents. Or your siblings that you act out in your relationships with other people around you. And so that's what I was referring to earlier is I can observe in other people and see like, wow, this person is really great at creating art, or this person is really great at, creating bicycles, or this person is really great at, being a financial advisor. But when it comes to having human relationships, they're horrible. It's like talking to like, a little kid that's just like screaming in your face for like 5 minutes. And that's because they really haven't evolved past the wounding of what happened to them when they were little kids.
I have noticed, if I could share with our audience, I have noticed one specific trend, Alexander, and it is very much connected to the black moon in Scorpio, Lilith in Scorpio, and all of the trends of 2025.
Mm,
People who have the most difficulty nowadays, and probably will have throughout this year, are people whose parents were not present.
mm,
Because when we have, let's say, a parental figure that is constantly like a flickering light, it's there, it's not there, it's there, it's not there, then the process of separation from this parental figure becomes almost impossible.
mm,
In order for children, for adults to separate from an object, it has to be constant.
mm,
And if it's not, if the parents were there just on the weekend, or if the parents were drinking a lot or taking drugs, if parents were, I don't know, having another family simultaneously, whatever, many scenarios, many different scenarios. Children have difficulty separating and adulting, and therefore they have tendency of finding narcissists, psychopaths, you name it, anyone who would break them again so they can re-experience this trauma again and heal it.
mm,
So it looks like we are on the verge of, the time where serious work is needed.
mhm,
Obviously, with the Neptune and Aries, it's going to be more and more difficult,
mhm,
as we see the area of holistic medicine shrinking and getting smaller and smaller. On the one hand, is good. Like only the
mhm,
strongest, only the ones who are truly compassionate and efficient survive, right? And all of the
mhm,
trash is going to be washed away. We will not see the fake gurus and the fake coaches and the fake healers and the fake trainers. This is good, but still, the ability for general population to access these tools, um, starts to become limited, and this is also
mhm,
that we will see in 2025. What is it you
mhm.
want to say? I'm sorry, I can tell the
Oh
team.
no, I really was enjoying everything that you were saying. I do definitely see that the bubble is going to burst very soon when it comes to highlighting all of the fake gurus and healers and such. And I've already been seeing it. There's already a lot of online backlash that's been happening with people, which is going to happen. Like, it was bound to happen that Instagram and TikTok and all of these woke influencers would eventually, be seen for what they really are. And that's not to say that there are some of them that actually are authentically choosing it, but it's very rare to see that. Um, and I think it's interesting that you brought that up because with narcissism, there's like a very fine line, right? And I think using the Lilith and Scorpio and comparing it to the Mariana Trench, you know, the Fool card in tarot, it's my favorite. But there's this part where, yeah, you need to learn how to take care of yourself. And yeah, working out and all of these things and eating well and taking care of your face and yada yada yada. But then there's a point where it starts to get where you're disassociating from your body because you're so obsessed with how everybody else thinks about you that you lose sight of who you are, you know? And a lot of people are not willing to be themselves on the internet. They're also not willing to talk about things that are uncomfortable because they're afraid of what other people are going to say about them. And it's like some of you are in your 40s and 50s and are still worried about what people think about you. I mean, like, when is it going to end? When are you going to live your life? When you're dead? You know?
I think it's not going to end. I think it's not going to end. You can totally see like heavily edited videos of, some dudes, and also females. By the way, this trend is going away. Heavily edited videos is a no-go, and Aries speaks for something natural, something very fast, something very genuine, pioneering. So, yes, goodbye trend of fake teeth and fake boobs and whatever else. So, this wounding, the parental figures, they definitely come up this year, and they come up in a way that a lot of people experience jealousy. So, especially who's prone to this, especially people who had siblings or whose parents were, let's say, comparing them. There is like this hidden competition. The hidden competition is going to hit hard. And as I said, I already see in my friends circle, some of my female friends have experienced it firsthand. Some females are getting extremely possessive and jealous of anything and everything that moves,
Hmm.
starting with men, ending with, I don't know, vehicles or the ability, let's say, the oratory skills of someone else. So anything and everything will become, or does already, is becoming a point of envy and jealousy. And I wanted to ask you, dear Alexander, what is the tool or what is the advice you can give to our audience, how to navigate through this thick mud of envy and jealousy? Mm.
When it comes to envy and jealousy, I think that it's really important to take note on how people react when you tell them certain things. So, when I'm around people, I'm very, very careful with things that I say to them unless they're really in my inner circle. But sometimes people will get into your inner circle for a while that are able to kind of navigate, and I wouldn't say that they're necessarily bad people, but those types of people that are able to kind of in a chameleon way match up with your energy. But the thing is that those people will show you that they are competitive and jealous and envious towards you because
Oh,
they don't know how to choose it for themselves. They don't know how to really choose their authentic self, and you will see the reactions of them saying something like, "Oh, a client bought a package of sessions from me today." How does their face look? How are they reacting? Right? How and like why and also like why should I be withholding the fact that a client wants to work with me for a long time?
oh
Why
my
is
God, Alexander, this is incredible. Let me just tell you a story real quick.
okay, yeah, yeah.
Couple of days ago, I was in the olive land in Tuscany, sharing a glass of wine with friends, and then one of my friends, to whom I mentioned that I just purchased an apartment in Tuscany, a house, he kind of he starts to boast, he starts to brag, "Oh, Mary bought a house." And you could see that some of my friends literally dropped the glass out of their hand as they did this. And you can see their lower jaw like dropping all the way down. and they're what the Germans call Mundwinkel, the corners of the mouth going down.
Yeah.
As you say it, it's just it's just an illustration of what you're talking about right now. But please go ahead.
No, that's what it is. It's like if we can't be happy for each other, and if we can't reciprocate and receive the happiness, and if someone is celebrating something and then that other person just relates it to themselves, that is a red flag. If you are around someone and you're saying, I did this, and then you automatically feel this vacuum of energy, that's another thing too. As soon as you feel the vacuum from that person and they're staring at you, and it's not from a place of gratitude or acknowledgement, it's that they want what you have, that is um, a very clear sign that maybe this person shouldn't be in your life. Because what will happen is once you attach yourself to that person and they attach you to each other, they're vacuuming out all of your energy, manifestations, all of your abundance, and are taking it into themselves. And you will see that when those manifestations show up in that person's life, they will not be grateful for you. It will only be a certain type of like, oh, like if it weren't for so and so, da 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 da. But then when it really comes down to the things that you've helped manifest in that person's life, they will not acknowledge you for it. And I'll give you an example. I had a client who was a really big real estate agent. And he told me, he said, if you do some house clearings on some properties, I will give you a percentage, right? And this was like 10 years ago when I still didn't understand things like contracts and NDAs and all of that stuff. And now I make all my clients sign contracts just to protect myself. he, he was like, yeah, well, you helped me sell this house, but, the commission that I didn't get on it was da 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 da. And I was like, hmm. And then he hired me again to clear out another house for him over the phone. And then the commission still didn't come in, but he was still asking. Do you see what I mean? So you just have to be careful because it's not just clients that can do that to you, it's friends as well. Yeah. It could be family members, it could be anybody, so you just need to be mindful of the vacuum that you start to feel from people.
Excellent point, Alexander. And this vacuuming of the energy, as you said, might be closely related to parasites, also parasites in the body. Uh,
Oh.
thing is that, for example, in Germany, as far as I know, people who have cats and dogs in the house. 100% they do have parasites, like live
Mm,
parasites, that they're infested with, but it's extremely difficult to get a prescription. Anti-parasitic treatment is extremely difficult to get in Germany or perhaps also in the US. So a lot of people are just walking, talking parasite holders, and therefore they attract because they vibrate. And we talked about it several years ago. They vibrate at the same frequency as these parasites. Sometimes people
mm,
get attracted to each other because they have similar parasites. As crazy as it sounds, but I have seen a lot of blood tests and just in general, a lot of medical records of, let's say, people who had these problems and they, throughout, working on themselves and obviously going through a certain protocol, people who got rid of it, they also ditched a lot of parasitic people in their life.
mm.
What are you going to say to that? Like, do you have an experience in
Oh
this?
my God. Yes, of course. God, I have so many experiences with that. I did my first ever full parasite protocol um, during the pandemic. Actually, Mary remembers, and it was so crazy what happened.
Mhm.
The first week, I didn't feel anything and I didn't think anything was happening and was like talking to Mary. Like we used to do Insta lives every week. Um, and I was like, I'm not feeling anything. And she's like, oh, you will. And then a
That's good.
couple of, yeah, a
Mhm.
couple of days later, um, it was like everyone just stopped talking to me, right? And I was like, what happened to all the people that I was hanging out with, or the people that I was talking to like on Zoom and like all this stuff? And then I got the message from God that a lot of these people weren't actually my friends, and that a lot of them were siphoning off of my life force because we all had parasites. And then I remember I was in a WhatsApp group with a
Mhm.
lot of these people, and we weren't messaging each other on the WhatsApp group. I put a message in and I said, "Hey guys, I've been taking wormwood and I've been clearing out my gut and uh all this other stuff." And they were all like, "Oh, like are you doing a parasite cleanse?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were like, "Oh, we've never done a parasite cleanse before." And then it was so weird, like they all started talking about like the food that they were eating and like
Oh,
party,
wow.
very bizarre behavior. And I was
Mhm.
like, is that them talking or the parasites talking, right? So
The
then
latter.
right, right. And then um I had a situation happen where there was black mold in an apartment that I lived in, where I was living with another person. And I remember that was a very strange time. I had a seizure. I didn't realize that seizures, if you are very sensitive to black mold, it can induce a seizure. Um, and it took me probably like, I guess, like 6 months to recover from that or more. And so now I have like a very uh uh hyper awareness to black mold because of that situation. Like my body can kind of like perceive it. Um and black mold and parasites, from what I have been getting the awareness around, go hand in hand. So when you have black mold, heavy metals, you probably also have parasites as well.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And Black Moon in Scorpio will bring up all of the issues around parasites, whether these are people. It's time to get rid of it. And probably we are to expect a financial crisis also until the end of this year because Scorpio is closely connected to financial markets. So it's going to be a fun time. And imagine if what we talked about in the beginning of our session, if it's true, and it's true,
Mm,
because Scorpio, Lilith and Scorpio brings up top and finances. You start
mm,
noticing how greedy some people are, and some people who were officially your friends actually were only after your money. Um, if financial crisis happens, and probably that's going to be, let's say, starting point for a lot of this turmoil and a lot of this inner work on sexuality and finances. Um, when this, you don't want to have any parasitic energies around, right?
around sexuality and finances, it's very interesting that you brought that up because my entire life, my whole life, I've always been very um what's the word, exuberant and effervescent, physically, mentally, spiritually, and financially. And I have found that when you attract parasitic people to you that want those things from you, it's really easy to distract yourself with those people, right? And so for me personally, moving forward, um, I'm very, very careful with the people that I have in my life now. And I have to be because my vessel is literally a vessel of abundance for other people. When other people come into my life, their life gets better, they make more money, but that's because of my energy and because of the grace that I bring into their lives. So for me, um, I think the other thing too that's really important from a place of advice for other people, especially if you are gay or queer, um, is you need to be very careful with dating also, and the types of people that you are dating as well. Because if you are not engaging in relationships with people who really resonate with you and you're just doing it from a place of distraction, that is draining your life force.
Mm,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. Well,
yeah.
we'll transfer you to Tuscany, Italy. Virtually, there are only hunters here, and very few people to date. But that should bring this clarity and purity and whatever it is you want to have this year in your life. But in any case, I think what is going to be relevant for our audience next time, and hopefully we will do the next crystal talk, maybe from Livorno. I'm about to attend a fashion show there in a few hours. Um, we'll be staying there over the week. But our next topic should be visibility and distraction, because a lot of people suffer from being distracted, being distracted
Yes.
all the time, and this is something to explore and to talk about next time.
Mm-hmm.
Alexander, thank you so much for your time. We always appreciate your wisdom, and I hope you, our dear audience, will write some things down. It was very enriching and very profound today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Mary, and it's always a pleasure talking with you and with our audience.
All right. See you soon.